So, over this past weekend, there were a few different things that I just kind of encountered, and it reminded me in one way or another of living out the Christian life.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what's weird about that is they're almost all tied to the martial arts and
Hmm.
competing in a taekwondo tournament. So, what in the
How
world,
did you
right?
marry
How in
those
the
two
world?
things? Yep.
Because, on the surface, I don't see necessarily the correlation between those two things. But what happened is our family had signed up to be part of a taekwondo tournament
Uh-huh.
over the weekend. We've been doing martial arts for a little while now. And Susie and I sign up in part to encourage the kids
Sure.
to do this. Like, my biggest thing is I'll go, I'll compete. I just don't want to get hurt because I
Yeah.
don't recover like I used to.
Right?
Right? Injuries
Uh-huh.
used to be rare, and when they would happen, the recovery was quick.
Well,
That's not really the case
I
anymore.
know.
So, but as we, Friday was the last day before the tournament. The tournament was on Saturday. Friday, we're at the gym and we're wrapping up what we're doing there and getting ready to go home. And one of the instructors says, "Hey, can I talk to you guys for a minute?" It's like, have you ever considered power breaking?
Which is?
Which is the breaking of multiple boards. I mean, maybe you've
No
seen
kidding. I
that
have.
on
I've
like
seen it. Yeah.
television and in movies, and
I
they're
didn't think regular people could do that.
me either.
Huh.
Me either. Turns out my wife is a stud.
I bet. I could see
I'm
that.
not surprised by
no,
this.
I'm
but
not.
So we're like, oh, fine. Tell us what's involved and what do you have to do. And just the fact that we were even kind of remotely curious,
Mm-hmm. She
her
saw that.
face
Yeah.
lit up. So we get in talking, and she's, explaining everything and demonstrating and showing and teaching and whatever. And I left there, and both Susie and I had this thought. She was the first one to articulate it, but she's like, that instructor was an evangelist.
Ah.
The joy,
For
the
breaking boards.
passion,
Yeah.
the excitement that
Huh.
she had for what she is passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
you almost couldn't help but be drawn in
Yeah.
by all of that. I'm like, isn't that what a follower of Jesus should be?
Yeah.
Should we not be so excited about, passionate about him that when we see people who are asking questions, who are curious, who seem to be wondering about God in some way,
Mm-hmm.
that we don't just say, how can I help? What can I show you? Can I explain? Can I teach? Can I whatever? Not in a condescending way, not
Right.
in a higher than thou way, not in a whatever. She was not like that at all. It was a joy. She's like, can I demonstrate? Can I show you? Can I answer a question? How can I help? What do you need to know? What could, And it was such a cool thing to be like, man, I want that.
Yeah.
Because I see the joy that she has in that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just in breaking boards,
Sure.
right? How much more important is Jesus
There's a
than breaking
difference,
boards?
though, don't you think? Because she's spending time doing that. And I wonder if we're not excited about it because we're not spending time with him.
Hmm.
She really spends time honing her craft, wanting to teach others. And so it's a daily discipline for her. I imagine this is a daily discipline for her. She may not be breaking boards every day, but she's in the realm of martial arts.
Right. Yep.
So it's part of her DNA. And I think sometimes we lose the joy of the Lord because we're not spending time with him. We're not in his word. We don't know his character, or we know a verse or two, but we don't have the complete, not that we'll ever understand all of the scriptures because they're living and they're
Yeah.
sharper than a two-edged sword. So they're always changing and moving. And case in point, if you've ever read a book of the Bible and you go back and read it again, you're like, I didn't see
Oh my
that
goodness,
there.
I didn't see that the first time. Yeah.
But the more you learn about him, the more you want to share him.
Yeah.
And I think we get on our back foot and we're intimidated to share and have no joy because we're not in the word or spending time with him where she is.
Yeah.
And she just wants to share that. You know what it reminded me of when you were telling me that story is somebody who has a home business.
Okay.
Think multi-level marketing kind of deal. They're so excited about their product. This is what they talk about all the time. Can I show you? Can I
Yeah.
because they're spending time knowing what they're selling. And in a way, that's what she's doing. And you don't sell the gospel, but to be ready to share the gospel
Right.
because it's important to us, I think is such a great parallel.
Yeah. And, when I think about the marketing thing, there's money tied to that. Like in her case, there was no money. There
Sure,
was
right.
nothing in it for her in a sense other than I want you to experience the same joy that I have in this.
Mm.
And sure enough, as we began to try this, we're like, oh, this is actually really fun. This is
So
cool.
you loved it?
I did.
Are you hurt? Did anybody get hurt?
I mean, I don't know if you can see this on the camera. There's just minor little,
Little
scratches,
bruises and yeah.
minor little things. Yeah,
Did it
not
hurt
big.
though?
No.
How does
I
that
mean-
happen? How can you break a board and it not hurt?
Speed, technique, practice. It's all about.
Ah.
It's all about knowing the right way to do it
Uh-huh.
and then committing to it.
Mhm.
And I think about the gospel as well and knowing God. Do you know how to break a board? Well, you have to know the technique and you have to commit to it. You want to know God? Well, we have to know who he is
That's right.
and commit to him
Mm-hmm.
as he draws us into that relationship with him. And as we enter into that fellowship with him, we commit, right? Recognizing he is Savior and Lord.
Yep.
And that was one of the things that I think I learned in doing this was, all right, I don't know yet the best way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've broken boards before, 1 or 2 at a time. But when we started going like 3 and 4 boards
Wow.
and you're going through a pile of wood that thick and things like, you're like, okay, I kind of need to know the best way to do this.
Sure.
And so how did I learn the best way to do this? I looked at somebody who is more mature and experienced
Mm-hmm.
than me in doing this. In a sense, she discipled us
Yeah.
very quickly. We made the decision to do this less than 24 hours before the competition.
No kidding.
So there was a lot of learning fast.
Sure.
Right. But I was thinking about what did she do? Well, she taught, she discipled, she got in there with us. And here's how you do the footwork. Here's how you rotate here. Here's the best way to do that. It was a training and discipleship process. And the same way that she had the enthusiasm of, hey, I want you to experience the joy that I have in this thing. There's like, now let's do this together. Let me show you. Follow after me.
Yep.
And I think of the more mature believers, those who have known Jesus for a while and have a depth of maturity. How many people in our lives do we have that we're inviting? Hey, come with me on this.
Yeah.
Let me share my experience with you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're a little bit further down the road than some newer believers. And like, look, I know the struggle is real, but let me show you how Jesus has shown up. Let me show you what I've learned in walking with him.
Walking with him. And that's just it. Like in your case with that situation, it was pretty quick. Sometimes it's a journey. I mean, you guys have been on this martial arts journey that you have learned patterns and you've learned technique, and that's taken some time.
Sure.
And because as I talk to your wife, and she's talking about when you're belt testing and you have to remember the patterns that you learned in the beginning, as well as the patterns that you're like needing to master for the latest belt. And it's all building blocks, right?
Totally.
Is that so?
Yeah.
You think about just the time it takes. And I keep hearing our friend Wayne Burns say it's bankable.
Yeah.
Take the next step, do the next thing. And these things add up. And as I've watched your all's martial arts journey in your household, it's been that bankable, keep doing it, keep practicing. And then you're ready for, like, they wouldn't have asked you to break boards the first belt or two.
Right.
This is on down the road where
Yeah.
you have done all of the work and you've spent all of the time learning. And now you can quickly learn something new
Sure.
because you have done all of the work. And I think, how often can we spend time with the Lord and learn more of his character and more of the joy of his presence in our lives? And that spills out to others. And then they want to know, they ask, can you pray with me over this? Can
Yeah.
you walk with me during this season of life? And it's because He's drawn us into this relationship with him and then said, spend time with me. I mean, Jesus, even his tenure here on earth, he would go away and spend time with the Lord.
Right.
I keep thinking I need to be at the beach to spend time with the Lord. I mean, concentrated,
Yeah.
set apart,
That might help.
quiet, only the waves. Yeah. but it's just that I don't want to say methodical because that almost sounds like it takes the joy out of it, but it is showing up and spending time
Yeah.
and just knowing more of who he is. And the difference in the spiritual life is you can ask him, like, I don't necessarily understand, Lord, how all this works, but you do. Will you help me? Will you show me? And his spirit will do that work.
Which is so cool.
Yeah.
When we ask that of him, I think that's a request that is honoring of who he is and a relationship with him. And, when we're praying in accordance with his will,
Yep.
Lord, I want to know more of you.
Yep.
I think he's going to answer that prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And very cool to see how he may do that. One of the other little things that I was reminded of, though, is when we walk with Jesus, there's an element of faith and commitment.
Sure.
Like, Lord, I recognize who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that I, apart from you, can do nothing.
Right.
I recognize I can't save myself. I need to commit with your spirit's, to walk with you
Yep.
fully. It's going all in with
Sure.
him. Right. And as we were, kind of walking through the motion of how we're going to break boards and do these things, there was one thing that, we were reminded of, I was reminded of from other sports that I've done in the past is you've got to go all in.
Yeah.
Because if you hold back,
You will get hurt.
you will get hurt.
Yeah.
That's when injury happens.
Mhm.
And so it's only in committing, going all in, that we're going to have that success.
Yeah.
That those boards are going to break and you're going to get, the desired result. I wonder how many of us are shortchanging the intimacy in our walk with God because we refuse to go all in.
Is it so when I think about breaking boards and I think about being committed and all in, I kind of know me a little bit, and there's going to be this fear in being committed. What if I go for that board and I get hurt? So
Yeah.
I think that translates to our walk with the Lord too. Like, Lord, what if I submit and then something really bad happens, and it's because I wanted to follow you, and the commitment is we're following him for the sake of him,
Yes.
not for the sake of our circumstances,
Yes.
because he'll be with us in all those circumstances. But how do you fight the fear? Like, if we're talking these parallels, how do you fight the fear when you're coming against this board where I would say that I'm going to break before it does?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple things that pop in my head right away. When you have done the training, when you understand the technique, when you go all in, that the power is there for those boards to break. If you don't do it the way that you should do it, failure is going to happen.
Sure.
Your only chance of breaking these boards is to do it, in a sense, the prescribed way. Now, there may be tweaks on that prescribed,
Yeah, sure.
different people may have slightly different foot technique, right? But there is, if those boards are going to break, you have to do it the way that it needs to be done.
Yep.
And you need to commit to doing that. Well, in a same way, if we believe God is who he says he is, that he is faithful, just, true, honest, he does not lie, he cannot lie. Well, he gives us then in his word, this is how you know me.
Yeah.
This is what salvation looks like. This is, and he's given us, in a sense, that map, that path to. So if I think that I can do it my own way, do it without committing,
Sure.
then I'm not going to get him.
Yeah.
So what am I treasuring in a sense? What am I going after? Am I going after my own perceived sense of safety and security?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I going to go after him? If I am fearful that I'm going to get hurt in breaking these boards, so I'm going to do it my way,
Yeah.
you know what's going to happen?
You will get hurt.
I'm going to get hurt.
Yeah.
When I say, God, my way is better than your way,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
I have lived enough life now, walked through enough pain
Proved it.
in life
Yep.
to know that when
Nailed
I
it.
insist on, Lord, I'm going to do it my way,
Yeah.
I'm going to get hurt.
It's true.
And the people around me are probably going to get hurt
Mm.
because I've made the poor decision to not walk in obedience with him.
Yeah.
And we don't sin in isolation.
Right.
There,
That's
in
true.
a sense,
That's very true.
is collateral damage
Yep.
for my sin.
Mm-hmm.
Those people that I'm close with, whether it's my wife, my kids, people I'm in a relationship, there's the potential collateral damage.
Yeah.
Because I have not done it his way.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do it the right way, when I put my feet in the right spot, when I get the right hip rotation, when I hit the right spot on the board, whatever, I get the desired results. When I recognize that God's way is best,
Mm-hmm.
when he is who he says he is, that salvation comes through him alone. And I believe the good news of the gospel that he's given in his word. Well, then what do I get? I get him.
Yes.
I get salvation.
Mm-hmm.
I get a knowledge of him, intimacy with him, get to experience that genuine and real love relationship with him that we were created to have.
Yes. And his presence, I think that's where we have to look really carefully at what are we asking when we're saying, Lord, I do want to follow you. I do want to commit. Are we asking for the perfect life here, this side of eternity? Are we thinking he's going to make everything fantastic and the rose petals are scattered on our path and nothing's going to be wrong again? No, we are committing to his presence in our life. We're committing to when the difficulties come, because it's difficult to break a board. If we're staying with our analogy, it's difficult. But if we're trusting, we want his presence in our lives when the difficulties come, when we do fail and we have caused ourselves pain, we've caused others in our lives pain, and we have somebody to turn to that can heal, help us forgive, help us to be forgiven, help us to walk through the messiness of life. These are all, I think the focus of what we're saying is when we commit to you, Lord, it's the fact that we want your presence.
Yeah.
Because we know this life is going to chew us up and spit us out. And to have you to hold us through all of that, to walk with us, to give us counsel, to give us your spirit. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please and thank you. And as you were talking about just the things that you do, the commitments that you make, the power, the hip rotation, the placement of the feet, I was thinking about, you're going to be surprised.
I bet I know where you're going.
Go ahead, say it.
Yeah, Peter.
Second Peter.
Second Peter.
First, chapter 1, because this is where it talks about so many of the things that he has given us for life and godliness. So we're talking about committing to him. We're talking about a relationship with him. And he even points out, like, this is your humanness, and this is what I'm calling you to. And they're not the same. Your humanness has evil desires. These things that will help you and keep you from being unproductive and ineffective, these are the things that I want you to pursue. And so he talks about goodness and knowledge and self-control and perseverance and godliness and brotherly kindness. I've been thinking about that one a lot lately. And love. And if you possess these qualities in an increasing measure, they're going to keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. But if you don't have them, he says, you're going to be nearsighted, you're going to be blind, and you have forgotten the cleansing I've given you from your sin. So you see this really powerful opposite, right? Follow me and pursue these things.
Mm-hmm.
But also you were talking about the commitment, and in 1 Corinthians, this strikes me, therefore, dear brothers, stand firm, let nothing move you, always give yourselves fully.
Yep.
Fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. That is a powerful call for us to surrender to his ways
Yep.
and not just what we think his ways are, but his ways of brotherly kindness,
Mm-hmm.
love, endurance, perseverance. And we got to have his strength to do it. And that's his training.
Yeah.
It's just, that's crazy, the parallel, because we get it. When we have an earthly parallel, it's like, oh, that makes a whole lot more sense
Sure.
than
Yep.
sometimes when I'm just trying to understand what the Lord wants. So that's super cool. And then I'm sure y'all just cleaned up.
There were some boards to clean up when we were done. Yes. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Hey, I love that you're here too. Thank you so much for being our +1 today. Would you do us a huge favor? Like and subscribe. We would really appreciate that. On whatever, there it is. That's the word. Whatever platform. More coffee you are listening or watching on. And if you want more information about Don and Steve Plus, our website is simpledonandsteveplus.com. And our friends at Raphael's Roastery that keep us going with that coffee that I clearly need more of, you've got that information in the show notes as well. We are grateful. Have a blessed day and join us again for Don and Steve Plus.